You no longer have to say suspected Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann, because now you can say confessed. The architect from New York, 6'4" ogre who towers over everybody, very creepy. I've been in court with him several times. Well, he admitted to killing 8 women, 8 victims who he tortured in his home. His wife was in court today. She leaned forward when he made a statement in court to the judge. This was the statement. The judge asked, "Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you waive your rights to a fair trial?" Heuermann said, "Yes, Your Honor." I mean, this was the same guy who pleaded not guilty, originally charged with 3 murders, and then another 4 was tacked on, and then today admits to 8. And during the bombshell in court today was his estranged wife, Asa Ellerup. You remember, I spoke with her in her front yard after his arrest. I'll show it to you later in this episode. Also in court today was family members of some of the victims. And here they are: Maureen Brainard-Barnes, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, Sandra Costilla, Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, and Karen Vergata. Karen Vergata is the 8th victim that he admitted to today. Remember, he was charged with the other 7 prior. There is a lot of questions in this case, including how many victims are there? Really? Are we going to learn more? What is in his plea deal? Why now? Why is he admitting to the murders at this point in time, almost on the eve of his trial that was set to take place in September? And is this justice for those victims and for the victims' families? A lot of questions surrounding this case, and we're going to dive into it. But first, thank you for being here. I'm your host, Matt Johnson, the host of the True Crime and Justice podcast right here on YouTube. If you're just joining me for the first time, thank you. Please hit the subscribe, the like, and share this episode because I'm really trying to bring the true crime family back together. Now, the case against confessed killer Rex Heuermann. Architect, father, and husband Rex Heuermann was actually a serial killer walking among us. And he went undetected for decades. He's now admitted to killing at least 8 women. Here they are. The architect had plans, according to prosecutors. Court documents outline what he called a blueprint, allegedly planning out his kills, the execution, how not to get caught. The court documents say problems and supplies. Problems listed as DNA, tire marks, blood stains, fingerprints, and more. Supplies include rope, cutting tools, a police scanner, hair nets, medical gloves, and more. Can you only imagine what these women must have endured, what they would have gone through? Tortured in his home. The case went unsolved for several years.
They were buried in a similar fashion, in a similar location, in a similar way. All the women were petite. They all did the same thing for a living. They all advertised the same way, and there were similarities with regard to the crime scenes.
DNA from a discarded pizza box outside Heuermann's office matched hair found on one of the victims. He was arrested later and ultimately charged with killing 7 women. I spoke with someone who worked in the same building with him. Let's watch.
His office is right above my office.
So did you ever see him in the building?
Not me, but I think either my boss or my coworker may have bumped into him, so.
What was your reaction of him working in the building and being arrested out front?
I was kind of like speechless. I was kind of surprised that it was him that was up there. That's news I got on that Friday when it was all surrounded by troopers, police, and reporters. So.
Yeah, do you remember when it happened? Like, was it all out here? Where did it happen? Was it here?
Well, the arrest was about a block away, but I guess the police here came to, check his office and collect all the evidence, whatever, so.
Have you been following the case?
I've been reading up. It's a really weird guy, and he's an awful looking guy.
I have investigated this case from the very beginning. And one of the first places I went was his neighborhood. And I spoke with his wife after his arrest. Here's what she told me. I know you can't talk about the case. How are you holding up?
What you see, right? It is what it is.
How's your children doing?
Not doing adult in that one. Not going there.
Have you spoken to your husband?
And I'm not going there either. That's already been, his lawyers already answered that question.
How are you getting through the day with media and with all the questions? I know it must be tough.
Moment by moment.
Initially informed them about their husband, their father. They were shocked. They were disgusted. They were embarrassed. So if you ask me, I don't believe that they knew about this double life that Mr. Heuermann was living.
She had no idea any of this was going on, or the allegations were even her husband was a suspect. She's not a suspect. She has not been questioned by the police regarding any of this. It's been extremely overwhelming for her and the children trying to piece life back together with what it was 2.5 weeks ago. I don't know if they're ever going to return to normalcy, but day by day she's getting better. She needs to show her strength so her children have something to focus on, a strong focal point of their mom being in charge and everything. And she's getting better each day.
So the family says that they didn't know, and that might be the case. But for perspective, I wanted to show you an interview I did about this case after the arrest of the Long Island serial killer. This interview is with Kerri Rawson. She is the daughter of Dennis Rader, otherwise known as the BTK serial killer. Like the Long Island serial killer case, it was DNA, her DNA, that was used to crack the case and lead to the arrest of her father. So again, here's this interview. It was done a couple years back, but it still applies. Let's watch.
I'm Kerri Rawson, and I'm the daughter of Dennis Rader, otherwise known as the BTK serial killer. From like a crime standpoint, like the victims' families, they've been waiting, like some of them for decades for answers. They've been waiting so long, right? And so you're like, this was one I didn't think was going to get solved. It's like this myth, like this legend, right? And then, so you're elated that somebody's like been captured, basically I'm saying like, we've got another critter off the streets like my dad. Like that's amazing to catch one of these guys and put them away for life. And we've got him on DNA. So I don't think there's really any question there in my mind on at least the 4, but like right after that, then you're like, wow, does this guy have a family? And so you're like, I'm looking through the news, like asking, like, does he have a family? And then you're seeing, okay, he has a wife, he has kids, and you're just like right back there to 2005 when my dad was arrested.
What is that like for the family of the serial killer, and presuming that they don't know anything?
Oh, it's just shocking. I mean, for my, so we know Rex was arrested the night before. So my question is, did they notify the family the night before? Did they contact them? Did they quietly notify them and move them somewhere safe? My family was notified right after my father was arrested. So, there was news coming out that there had been an arrest, but I still don't even really know what was out that first, say 24 hours till the press conference. And so my reality is very different from, say, media or the public. And so it's my hope that Rex's family, was contacted privately and notified the night before. For the family, that whatever that notification was, it's just like your whole life is altered right at that moment, and you're going into shock. And so it was key for law enforcement to interview us quickly to clear us, right? Because they need to clear you, make sure, like, especially with like older adults, like that nobody else is involved, like the wife. And then they want to like get information from you, like dates and times and, you know, alibis, because they have this massive investigation going on. And honestly, like, I was shutting down very quickly. So I was going into shock, physically shaking while I'm being interviewed by the FBI agent.
Family members of serial killers are asked all the time if they knew something and how could they not know something. So what's your answer to that?
I got asked it again today on Twitter. I mean, it's been 18 years for my family. I mean, some of these families going back to like the big ones in the 70s. I mean, you're talking 40, 50 years now for these families, multi-generations being like harped on, like, how did you not know? The reality is, like, if you're a sane, functioning person, if you had come across any of this stuff, like we found in like law enforcement found in my dad's house, or they're finding in Rex's house, like, you would notify the police right away, right? And what you're dealing with, and I'm trying to educate and speak up on, is like, I can't speak for Rex's family, but in my family's personal case, we were all multi-levels of abuse victims for decades. And so my father was like emotionally and mentally abusing us. It wasn't just controlling us, but it was like to the levels of criminality, of like pathologically lying in our house and controlling our environment down to where he could sit and where my shoes needed to be. And so I was a crime victim before I was born. My mom was pregnant when my dad committed his 7th. And so the reality is that for, like, especially for children like me, we're born into this family, and we're raised from the get-go by these people. So we really have no idea what his family has gone through, what levels of victimology they've been through, what they're dealing with now.
As for the killer's neighbors, they told me this.
I just feel bad for his wife and children. It's unfortunate that he is what he is, but I just wish they would leave his family alone. You know, leave the child alone, leave his wife, children alone, and his wife. Let him have some peace. It's not their fault.
I just question whether, like, the family, like, had a suspicion of it. Just, like, I know that it's different because, you know, the wife and the kids grew to, like, love him. They were in their lives for the longest time, like, obviously, but I just question, like, being so close, like, do you see those things? Like, do you catch on? Like, because that's scary, like, if you don't catch on to those things being so close, it's like, that could happen to anyone.
Now, after the news broke that Rex Heuermann was going to change his plea and plead guilty to the murders, I interviewed CSI Sheryl McCollum to get her take on the case and if there might be more victims. So joining us in the conversation, we have crime scene investigator and author of Swans Don't Swim in the Sewer is Sheryl McCollum, one of my friends, your friend, True Crime Fam. All right, when we're talking about this dirtbag, Rex Heuermann, what are your initial thoughts on this case that he's going to be changing his plea, according to reports?
I called it from day one. When I knew, when he first got locked up, he reached out to the smiley face killer. I thought, that's all I got to know. You are so arrogant. He reminded me of BTK and Koberger. And I thought, he will never go to trial. He doesn't want to look weak. He doesn't want people to know just how twisted he is. He wants to be in charge of how this story is narrated. So he's not going to let them do it. He's not going to let them put up experts and evidence and talk about him when he can't respond.
Yeah, this is a type of serial killer that loved the attention. They found clippings in his home along with other items that were confiscated that were very strange, including the life-size doll. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
But it appeared that he really loved the news coverage and kind of playing cat and mouse, which was the MO, if I remember correctly, of BTK.
Listen, there were a lot of similarities. You know, you can't deny it. He thinks he's the smartest person in the room. He's able to get away with this. Again, you and I have talked about it before, because there's no connection to the victims. The victims know numerous people. They go somewhere just because somebody calls them and says, hey, meet me here. So he's also a pretty lazy serial killer. The victims came to him. He didn't have to hunt. He didn't have to work. He didn't have to kidnap. They were easily overpowered by him. They did not know what was coming. Only he did. So he got them to a remote place, and then he did what he did. And, you know, remember on his computer when he had the blueprint for the killings? He told us. He told us exactly how he did it. He's going to clean the bodies. He's going to destroy evidence, and he's going to keep the noise to a minimum. So then you think, oh man, didn't he build some kind of soundproof room in his house that nobody was allowed to go in but him? And then he had all these things. You mentioned the doll. Do you remember the Playboy magazine? It was in one of the tubs they were bringing out that was clear. That was the issue that depicted Marilyn Monroe's, you know, suicide. Well, as you know, when she died, she was nude. So to him, again, that's porn on a different level. He liked torture porn. So what that tells you is what he did to these victims, because he didn't have them for 10 minutes. He had them for hours and hours, if not some of them days.
Are there more victims out there?
100%. I mean, he's going to admit to killing 7. There's no way there's only 7 victims. Not a chance.
Why plead guilty now? He's taking a page out of Kohberger on this one, who didn't go to trial and saved his own butt by not facing that firing squad like he should have. And then Kohberger didn't even give a statement in elocution, any sort of explanation or any statement.
Yeah, that blew my mind. At least BTK admitted to what he did. And I think that needs to be the case here at a minimum. I don't think you should just be able to say, yeah, I did it, but let's not talk about it. Because I think law enforcement needs to talk about it. Law enforcement needs to learn from it. The general public needs to learn from it. There's a reason a lot of these serial killers, you know, snatch people that are sex workers or homeless, because they're unknown, they're unseen. Nobody's looking for them. In this case, we had families that were, regardless of what they did for a living. And that helped keep this case in the news. But look how long it took before law enforcement would admit they had a serial killer. Everybody in the country, novices, you know, 3rd grade teachers were saying, it's clearly a serial killer, but they didn't even want to admit it. Then you find out their chief of police was involved in doing things that weren't on the up and up when it came to sex workers. So, you know, you had a lot going on in this neighborhood. There's no question.
What are we going to see at that change of plea? Do you think that Wifey Poo is going to be there? Did she know?
I think she has to be there. She's been standing beside him. I think she's got some kind of deal with Netflix or somebody. So I think she's got to see it through. I think she's got to show up, because that'll be their final, you know, scene, right? Do I think she knew? Matt, I don't know how she didn't know some things. And let me be clear. Do I think she knew that he was a serial killer to this level? No. Do I think she knew that belt? Yes. Yes. You know, they moved more than one time. You know, they weren't living together when they first met. There's no way his brother did not know that belt. So there's things that I think were probably a clue to her, like when he wanted to build a room inside their home that she wasn't allowed to go into. Matt, come on. That's a clue for anybody. And I mean, I understand everybody's relationship and marriage and whatnot is different. But if you start telling me you're going to build a room in my home that I cannot go into, I'm going in that room, baby, as quick as I can, because there's something not right. There's no reason for you to keep something from me at that magnitude. And then you're thinking 7 cell phones, all these devices, all these different laptops and computers. He's an architect and your house is falling down. Nothing about this added up. There's no way it added up to her.
And I've been to that home. We've talked about it offline before. I've been to that community. It is like storybook community, something out of a movie. There's flags on everybody's doorstep, American flag. There's people mowing, grilling out. It's just, Pleasantville. And then you get to his house and it's the Munsters' house. It's just completely bizarre. In a lot of the situations, we see the houses torn down, like with John Wayne Gacy. We saw that with the Idaho 4. That house was torn down. This house might be torn down. Are we going to discover more evidence?
It's a good possibility. I mean, if he built a room, who's to say he didn't lay concrete? I don't know. But you're talking about a man, if he started killing in his 20s or 30s, he had a lot of time, and he did not do this part-time. I say this all the time, but there is no such thing as a part-time serial killer, and there's no such thing as a part-time child molester. They are constantly driving around looking for a body disposal site, looking for a good place to take a victim to attack them. They are constantly looking at porn or something that they perceive to be porn. They are getting something from whatever it is they're watching and searching for online. They spend a great deal of their day doing those things. He worked probably very little. He spent time with his family very little. He probably couldn't wait for them to get to Iceland. And then it was full-time serial killing stuff, whether it's researching, ordering things, going and getting some burlap, doing something to, in the truck to make it easier to transport, whatever, getting another cell phone, whatever he was doing, it was for serial killing.
Sheryl, it's always great to get your insight about these things, as frightening as your answers might be. Thank you for being here. How do we get a hold of you? How do we follow you?
You can follow me on any social media platform. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, anywhere. And just follow me, message me. I love to hear from people.
All right. Thank you. We hope to see you back soon.
Thank you, Matt.
So what's next for the confessed Long Island serial killer? You can call him a psycho. That's right. But he does have to cooperate with authorities at sentencing and before. That's part of the deal. He can't be charged with any more crimes than the 8 that he's admitted to. And he's going to be sentenced on June 17th to this: 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, in addition to 4 consecutive 25 to life sentences. What do you think? Is this justice? Is this justice for the victims and their families? Let me know in the comments below. All right, thank you for being here for this special report about the Long Island serial killer case. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and please share this episode with a friend. Thanks for being here. Take care of yourself. We'll see you next time.